Welcome to another episode of Mimsy in the Kitchen. I'm Anna, but you can call me Mims. That's what my friends call me, and you can too. Today, strawberry jam. I made some the other day, and I still had enough to make another batch. So Christmas presents will be coming to the family. You just need a few simple ingredients. You need sugar, fresh strawberries, some lemon juice, clean sterilized jars, jelly jars or larger, whichever size you prefer, and also sterilized rings and lids. Let's get started. The first thing you're going to want to do is wash and drain your strawberries thoroughly, especially if you're getting them from a grocery store. I bought these at Sam's because I was not able to get strawberry plants this year and they wouldn't have been ready anyway. It takes 2 years. So what I do is I cut off the tops, make sure there's not any bad spots. Sometimes I cut them in half, sometimes I don't, and you'll find out why. I'm a cheater. Most people, when they get their strawberries ready, they take a potato masher and mash them up. I use my Ninja. I just put them in there and pulse them a few times and get them to a finer consistency. Works great, less effort. Today, I'm going to be doing a no pectin version of strawberry jam. Sometimes I use liquid pectin. You can use powdered pectin, just follow the directions. I've cut the tops off the strawberries and I'm saving these for the chickens. That will be some great little treats, and I think even my little dogs would like a bite of that. So you want to start out with about 5 cups of cut strawberries. Now I am going to crush these in the Ninja. As stated before, I cheat. And then you're going to have about 7 cups of sugar. I try to use a pure cane sugar, anything organic that I can instead of a white processed sugar. Use what you have. What you'll do is once you get these crushed and you get them in a pot, add your lemon juice. And the recipe that I have comes from an Amish canning book, and it calls for 1/4 cup. I always put 1/2 cup. That's just my preference. I feel safer about it, so that's what I do. Let me get these blended up. I'll show you what it looks like, and we'll move on from there. Strawberries are in the Ninja. Pulse them till I get them down like I want them. I've got my jars heating in my water bath canner. My pot is ready for my strawberries, my lemon juice, and my sugar. That is a lot of sugar. Good thing it makes a lot of jars. Now that it's all pulsed down to the consistency that I want, I'm just going to pour this into my pot and then add my sugar and lemon juice and let it slowly cook. And that was 5 cups of whole strawberries. For me, a 1/2 cup of lemon juice and 7 cups of sugar. I'm just going to add some and stir it and then add the rest. That is a sugar. And it takes that much sugar to get it to set. You probably could use a little less sugar if you were using a pectin, but I am not. This is going to be strictly from the pectin of the strawberries. We'll get that good and melted and let it cook down for 20 or so minutes. And then we'll be ready to jar it up. The sugar is melting, and you want to keep it stirring so that you don't scorch it. And it's going to get bubbly and it's going to get frothy. And another thing you'll need to add is about a teaspoon of butter. That'll help all this little foam surface up, and you can get rid of that before you jar it. But I like to wait till it gets hot before I add my butter. So While this is cooking down and I'm stirring, I thought I'd talk to you about liquid pectin a little bit, or pectin in general. I'm not using it today, but if I were, I typically use the liquid. I do have some powder. The powder has to be added in before you cook your mixtures or your jams, jellies, whatever fruit you're using. The liquid pectin goes in after. So that's just something you might want to know about that. And I'm just stirring this. The longer you cook it down, the thicker it's going to get, and it's going to set on its own. So this is really not necessary when you're doing a jam. Jellies, it's a little bit tougher to get on sometimes, so I always use this when I'm doing a jelly nowadays. After a few botched batches of syrup that I had to redo a few times, I just decided that I would use liquid pectin when making jellies, but for jams, it's not necessary. I've got a tiny pat of butter, maybe a teaspoon, and I'm gonna add that in there while it's hot to kind of help with some of the foamy stuff. And as you can see, I've already got my setup here. I've got hot water with the lids in it. These are warm still, the jars are hot. I've got my lifter and my debubbler and a cloth for wiping the rims with vinegar, just to keep them clean when we put the lids and the rings on before we put them back into the water bath canner. This is a water bath process. It's not pressure canning. For my altitude and height, depending on the size jars, for jelly jars it would be like 10 minutes. For the pint jars, I think it's 10 minutes on that too, but if you were to go larger, which is not recommended for jelly, you would have to adjust your time. I don't do anything larger than a pint jar. Not sure if you can see down into my large pot, but I have my jars completely sanitized, and I'm going to pull them out to begin filling them with jelly. Now, some people use tongs to remove the water and that kind of thing. I just use my lifters. Works just fine for me. Let me give this a quick stir. You can see that foam is developing on top. We're going to skim that off in just a moment. I've turned my heat off, and you can see it is starting to thicken up. I don't want it to be too thick. This is a jam, but it is starting pretty good. So by the time this water baths and then sets for 12 to 24 hours, we'll be good to go. Okay, so I've got my hot jars, I've got my warm lids and the rings, and I have pulled off some of the foam. There's still a little bit left. That's just going to happen with jams and jellies, but I'll get this little bit more off, and we're going to start filling our jars. Jelly is messy, so I've switched to a ladle. Got my funnel, and I'm going to fill to a 1/4 inch head space. Now you see I've got my parchment paper here on top of my towel. That's just because I am messy when I do this. You may not be, but you want to stir it to keep all your little particles in there also, because that's what makes the jam good. Oop, I hear Mom coughing. She's okay. She just gets strangled easy. But I'm listening for her. Okay, so we're going to keep going till about a 1/4 inch head space. That would be very good right there. We're going to wipe it with our vinegar and water mixture. And make sure there's nothing sticky whatsoever, or your jars will not seal. And we'll put a lid and a ring. Oh, and now the dog wants to bark too. This is what it's like here. Real life. And then I set my jars, isn't that beautiful, back into the canner for the water bath. And I'll continue on until all the jars are full. Okay, so that mixture of 5 cups of fruit, 7 cups of sugar, half cup of lemon juice, and a teaspoon of butter made 5 exact pints of strawberry jam. I'm going to be water bathing them for 10 minutes. They're going to water bath for 10 minutes. I'll let them sit for 5 minutes once I turn the heat off, and then I will set them out and not touch them again for 24 hours. Then I'll wipe the jars, label them, and put them away. Some will be Christmas presents and some will be ours. Okay, so while that's doing that, before I show you the end result, I wanted to share, this is the complete book of home preserving from Ball Canning. I use this one a lot, and I also use the Amish canning cookbook, which was given to me by a friend, my friend Tasha at Pine Knot Family Farm, and my brother gave me this one. So 2 really good investments. If you don't have these, you can get them by using my Amazon link that is in the descriptions of the video. It's an excellent one to have, definitely. There are other canning books out there like the USDA and the I can't even remember. There are several good canning books out there, but these are the 2 that I prefer to use the most, and so I just thought I'd share that little bit with you, and that you could get them through my Amazon link. Ooh, I just told a fib. I said I wouldn't touch those jars again for 24 hours. That's not true, because here's my tip. Whenever you're doing jams, a lot of times the fruit will rise to the top and the liquid will settle in the bottom. So what I do is wait till they're cool enough to touch, but they're still warm. Turn them upside down, back and forth a couple of times after I've heard them seal. If the jar is not sealed, I don't do it until it does. But once I hear that ping and it's cool enough to touch, I do pick them up and flip them back and forth so that that fruit settles back into the gel. Time's up. Turn this off and let it sit for 5 minutes and remove it from the pot. Okay, so it's been 5 minutes since I turned it off. So now it is just time to set them out. And this is what it looks like. Very pretty, but as you can see, the fruit kind of settles at the top, but after it seals and it cools off to the touch, I'll take it and flip it back and forth a few times just to incorporate the fruit particles into the preserve. Okay, the jars are sitting over on the counter. I'm leaving this hot water here because I'm going to be processing other foods today. I've got peppers to pickle, lemon, cucumbers, tomatoes, peaches, all kinds of things that can go into a water bath canner. So I'll probably do at least 1 or 2 more rounds with that today, just so I'm not wasting water. It's about being efficient. Okay, so I've got these sitting on the counter, among other things. My counters are always full these days. But for the sake of time, I wanted to show you. This was the jelly jar I started with at the beginning of the video to show you how it's incorporated. These are starting to ping, but they're still way too hot. So what I did was, when this looks like this, where the liquid was down here and the fruit was up here, as it would cool, I would take the bottle and do like that just a few times. 2 or 3 times while it cooled off. And then once it got cooled and started really gelling, I didn't have to do this process anymore, but I would just flip it a few times and set it there. So that is how you make strawberry jam. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you like and subscribe. All right, guys, I hope that made it easy for you. Don't forget to check out that Amazon link. Get your Ball Canning Cookbook or the Amish Canning Cookbook. Thanks for watching.